Disclaim.
I heard my own voice, killing him over and over.
My name is Emily Rose Carter. I am 32 years old. I died for 11 minutes on September 17, 2023 in Austin, Texas.
And I regret my actions till date. Before I begin, please subscribe so more people can hear testimonies like this. I need you to understand something before I tell you what happened to me. I need you to know that I was not a monster. I was not cruel because I wanted to be. I was cruel because I learned how to be, and I never thought it mattered. I never thought words could kill. But they can. And they did. It started on a Tuesday morning. September 5th. The kitchen was bright, too bright, and I was tired from another sleepless night spent scrolling through my phone instead of facing the silence between us. My husband, his name was David, he was standing by the counter, pouring coffee with hands that shook just slightly. I noticed. I always noticed, but I never asked why. He had forgotten to pick up groceries the night before. That was it. That was the thing that set me off. Not violence, not betrayal, just groceries. I remember the way my voice sounded when I spoke. Sharp, like glass breaking, like I wanted it to cut. So you just forgot? Again? He looked up at me, and his eyes. God, his eyes were so tired. He opened his mouth to say something, maybe to apologize, maybe to explain, but I did not let him. I never let him. I mean, it is not like I ask you to do much, right? I work full time. I clean. I cook. And the one thing I ask you to do, you cannot even remember. He set the coffee pot down slowly, carefully, like he was afraid it might shatter. I am sorry. I will go today, right now if you want. And I rolled my eyes. I actually rolled my eyes at him. Like he was a child. Like he was stupid. Forget it, I will do it myself. Like I do everything else. He did not respond. He just stood there, staring at the counter, and then he nodded once and walked out of the kitchen. I heard the bedroom door close. Soft, quiet, not a slam, never a slam. He never fought back, not anymore, and I felt victorious. I had won. Again. I wish I could tell you that was the only time. I wish I could tell you it was a bad day, a moment of weakness, a slip of the tongue. But it was not. It was every day. It was who I had become. We had not always been like this. In the beginning, we were different. I was different. I remember our wedding day. The way he looked at me like I was the only person in the world who mattered. I remember the vows I made. To love him. To honor him. To cherish him. I meant them. I swear I meant them. But somewhere along the way, I forgot. I forgot that he was not my enemy. I forgot that marriage was not a battlefield. I forgot that words, they do not just disappear into the air. They land, they stick, they burrow into the soul and they stay there. I started using sarcasm like a knife. Little cuts. Every day. About his job. He was a teacher, and he loved it, but it did not pay much. I made sure he knew I noticed. Must be nice to have a job with no real pressure. About his emotions. He cried once after his father died, and I used it against him for years. Are you seriously crying right now? Over this? About his body. He had gained weight after we got married, and I made comments. Small ones. Casual ones. The kind that sound like jokes but feel like acid. Maybe you should skip dessert tonight. And he took it. All of it. He absorbed every word like a sponge soaking up poison, and he never said a thing. He just got quieter. Smaller. More distant. I told myself he was fine. I told myself he was just sensitive. I told myself I was being honest, that I was keeping it real, that if he could not handle the truth then that was his problem, not mine. But the truth is, I was not being honest. I was being cruel, and I knew it. Somewhere deep down, I knew it. I just did not care enough to stop. My friends noticed. They would watch us at dinners, at parties, and I could see the discomfort in their eyes when I made a joke at his expense. When I mocked him in front of them. When I dismissed something he said with a wave of my hand and a comment like, "David does not really know what he is talking about." And he would sit there, silent, staring at his plate, and I would feel powerful. Like I had control, like I was winning something. But I was not winning. I was destroying. I was killing him slowly, word by word, and I did not even realize it. Until 3 weeks ago, we were sitting in the living room. Late at night. The television was on but neither of us was watching it. He was on one side of the couch. I was on the other. Miles between us even though we were only feet apart. He cleared his throat, soft, hesitant, like he was afraid to speak. Emily, I need to talk to you about something. I did not look up from my phone. Okay, talk. He was quiet for a moment. I could feel him trying to find the words. Trying to build up the courage. I have not been doing well. Mentally, I think I might be depressed. I felt irritation rise in my chest. Not concern, not compassion, irritation, like he was burdening me with something I did not want to deal with. I finally looked at him. Depressed? David, everyone is stressed. Everyone is tired. That does not mean you are depressed. His face, I will never forget the look on his face. It was hope dying in real time. I am not just tired, Emily. I am struggling. I have been struggling for a long time, and I did not know how to tell you, but I am telling you now because I need help. I need you. And I laughed. I actually laughed. You need help? David, people have real problems. Real depression. You have a job. You have a home. You have me. What exactly do you have to be depressed about? He stared at me, just stared, and I saw something break behind his eyes. Something that had been holding on finally let go. Maybe you are right. Maybe I am just weak. I shrugged. I did not say that. But if the shoe fits. He stood up, slowly, like his body was too heavy to move. And he looked at me one last time. Not with anger, not with hurt, with nothing, just emptiness. Okay, that was all he said. Okay, and then he walked to the bedroom and closed the door. I went back to scrolling through my phone. I did not follow him. I did not apologize. I did not even think about it. Because I had won the argument. I did not know that would be the last real conversation we would ever have. Because 3 days later, he was gone. I remember the sound of the sirens. That is what I remember most. Not the police officer's face. Not the words he said. Just the sirens. Loud, piercing, wrong. I had just gotten home from work. It was a Thursday, September 14th. I pulled into the driveway and saw the lights, red and blue, flashing against our house, and my first thought was not panic. It was confusion, like my brain could not process what I was seeing. I got out of the car, legs shaking, and I walked toward the front door where 2 officers were standing. One of them stepped forward. A woman. She had kind eyes. Too kind. The kind of eyes people have when they are about to destroy your life. Are you Emily Carter? I nodded. My throat was too tight to speak. Ma'am, I am so sorry, but your husband, David, he was found this afternoon. He took his own life. The words did not land. Not at first. They hovered in the air like something foreign, something that belonged to someone else's story. Not mine, not us. What? That was all I could say. Just, what? He was found in your bedroom. A neighbor called after noticing the door was open. I am so sorry. I pushed past her. I do not even remember deciding to move. I just moved. I ran into the house, down the hallway, and there were more people inside. Paramedics. Another officer. People I did not know touching things in my home, standing in my space, talking in low voices like they were in a library. But David was not there. They had already taken him. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, staring at the bed we had shared for 6 years, and I felt nothing. Just nothing. My brain shut down. My body shut down. I was a shell standing upright because I did not know what else to do. The next 3 days were a blur. Family came. Friends came. People brought food I could not eat and said words I could not hear. They hugged me. They cried. They told me it was not my fault. But I knew. Somewhere deep inside, beneath the shock, beneath the numbness. I knew. I kept replaying that last conversation. Over and over. His voice. His face. The way he said he needed help. The way I laughed. Maybe you are just weak. If the shoe fits. I said that. I said those words to my husband 3 days before he killed himself. And I went to bed that night without a second thought. On the 3rd day, I was going through his things. I do not know why. Maybe I was looking for answers. Maybe I was looking for proof that it was not my fault. Maybe I was just trying to feel close to him again. I found his journal in the nightstand drawer. Brown leather. Worn edges. I had never opened it before. He was private about his writing. I respected that, or maybe I just did not care enough to ask. But now Now I needed to know. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened it. The pages were filled with his handwriting. Neat, careful, so much like him. I flipped through slowly, reading entries from months ago. A year ago, he wrote about work, about his students, about me, and then I found the last entry. September 11th, the day he died. My hands started shaking before I even read the first word. The note was short, just a few paragraphs, but every sentence was a knife. He wrote about how much he had tried, how hard he had fought to hold on, how he kept telling himself things would get better, that I would see him, that I would soften, that I would love him again the way I used to. But I never did. He wrote my words back to me. Exact quotes. Things I had said over the years. Things I had forgotten. Things I thought did not matter. You said I was weak. You said I would never be enough. You said you regretted marrying me. You said I was a burden. You said maybe I should just stop trying. I do not remember saying that last one. But I must have, because there it was, in his handwriting, in his memory, in his final thoughts. He wrote that he heard my voice constantly. In his head, on repeat. That no matter how hard he tried to silence it, it was always there. Louder than anything else. Louder than hope. Louder than love. Louder than God. He wrote that he was sorry. Sorry for not being stronger. Sorry for not being the man I wanted. Sorry for taking up space in my life. And then he wrote, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot live in a world where the person I love most thinks I am worthless. So I am choosing to leave. Maybe without me, she will finally be happy. The journal slipped from my hands and hit the floor. I could not breathe. My chest tightened. My vision blurred. My heart felt like it was being crushed in a fist. I killed him, not with my hands, not with a weapon, but with my words, with my cruelty, with my careless, thoughtless, deliberate destruction. I tried to stand but my legs gave out. I fell to my knees, gasping, choking on air that would not come. My hands clawed at my chest like I could somehow pull the pain out, like I could reach inside and undo what I had done. But I could not. The panic attack hit fast. Hard. My pulse spiked. My heart hammered violently, irregularly, and then, it stopped. Just stopped. The pain was sharp, sudden, like lightning through my ribs. I collapsed onto the floor, the journal beside me, David's words still echoing in my mind. Maybe I am just weak. If the shoe fits, I am choosing to leave. My vision tunneled. Darkness crept in from the edges, swallowing the room, swallowing me. My last thought was not a prayer. It was not regret. It was just horror. What have I done? And then, I was not in my body anymore. I was floating above myself, looking down at my own body lying on the bedroom floor, pale and still. The journal opened beside me like evidence at a crime scene. I could hear my heartbeat. Slow, stuttering, and then, silence. I felt a pull, not gentle, not peaceful. It was forceful, inescapable, like being dragged by an invisible hand toward something I could not see but somehow knew I deserved. The room faded, the house faded, everything faded, and then I was standing, in a place I did not recognize, but somehow knew I had been summoned to. The floor beneath me was glass. Clear, smooth, and beneath the glass, fire moved slowly, casting shadows that looked like accusations. I was no longer on earth. I was standing in judgment. I was standing on glass. That was the first thing I understood. Not where I was, not how I got there. Just glass beneath my feet. Clear, smooth, cold, and beneath the glass, fire. Not raging, not wild, just moving, slowly, like oil, like something alive that did not need to hurry because it had all the time in the world. The flames cast shifting shadows across the floor, and every shadow looked like an accusation. I tried to move but my legs would not obey. I tried to speak but my voice came out strange, hollow, like it was echoing in a place too vast to have walls. Where am I? No answer. Just silence. But it was not peaceful silence. It was the silence of a courtroom before a verdict. The silence of something waiting. I looked up. The space around me was infinite. White light everywhere. So bright it should have hurt my eyes but somehow did not. It just was. Everywhere. Inescapable. I could not see walls. I could not see a ceiling. Just light. Just glass. Just fire beneath. And I knew I knew with a certainty that crushed my chest. I was not dreaming. This was real. I spun around, searching for a door, a window, an exit, anything. But there was nothing. Just light and silence and the terrible feeling of being watched by something I could not see. Hello? My voice cracked, desperate, small, and then I felt it. Not a presence, not a person, just weight, like the air itself was pressing down on me. Like gravity had doubled, tripled. I dropped to my knees without meaning to, hands flat against the glass, and the fire beneath flickered in response. I was not alone. Something was here, watching, knowing, judging. My breath came fast and shallow. Panic clawed at my throat. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but I could not move. I could only kneel there, trembling, waiting for whatever was coming. And then, they appeared. Scrolls. Massive, ancient, hovering in the air in front of me like they had always been there and I was only now allowed to see them. They unrolled themselves with a sound like thunder rolling across a valley, slow and deliberate, and golden light burned from the text written on them. I squinted, trying to read the words, and my stomach dropped. My name, Emily Rose Carter, written at the top in letters that glowed like embers. No, what is this? I reached out toward the scrolls but my hand stopped inches away, like there was an invisible barrier I could not cross. The scrolls continued to unroll, line after line of text appearing, and I realized with growing horror that I recognized the words. They were mine, my words, my sentences, things I had said, things I had screamed, things I had whispered in cruelty disguised as honesty. And then the scrolls began to speak. In my voice. So you just forgot? Again? I froze. That was me. That was my voice. From the kitchen. From that Tuesday morning. The groceries. The argument. I mean, it is not like I ask you to do much, right? I work full time. I clean. I cook. And the one thing I ask you to do, you cannot even remember. I was hearing myself. But I was not just hearing the words. I was feeling them. Not my feelings. His. David's. The shame hit me first. Hot. Suffocating. Like being slapped in front of a crowd. I felt small. Worthless. Humiliated. I felt the way my tone made him feel like a child being scolded. Like he could never do anything right. Like he was a burden. My chest tightened. Tears burned my eyes. Stop, please stop. But the scrolls did not stop. Forget it. I will do it myself. Like I do everything else. And I felt it again. The sting. The rejection. The exhaustion of trying and failing and never being enough. I felt his heart sink. I felt him shut down. I felt the exact moment he stopped trying to defend himself because what was the point? I collapsed forward, hands pressed against the glass, sobbing. I did not know it felt like that. But the scrolls kept going. Year after year, argument after argument, my voice filled the chamber, and every word carried the full weight of the pain it had caused. I heard myself mock him in front of our friends. David does not really know what he is talking about. And I felt his humiliation. His isolation. The way he smiled and pretended it did not hurt while something inside him died. I heard myself dismiss his emotions. Are you seriously crying right now? Over this? And I felt his shame. His belief that he was weak. That he was broken. That something was wrong with him for feeling anything at all. I heard myself criticize his body. Maybe you should skip dessert tonight. And I felt his disgust with himself. His hatred of his own reflection. The way he started avoiding mirrors because all he could see was failure. Every word, every comment, every careless sentence I had thrown at him like it meant nothing. I felt the impact. I experienced what he experienced. And it was unbearable. I tried to cover my ears but the sound was inside me. I tried to close my eyes but I could still see. I was trapped in the truth of what I had done, and there was no escape. Please, I am sorry. I am so sorry. And then the scrolls stopped. Silence again, heavy, suffocating. I knelt there, shaking, tears streaming down my face, and I thought maybe it was over. Maybe that was enough. But then, something else appeared. A book, massive, impossibly thick, bound in light so bright it hurt to look at directly. It materialized beside the scrolls, hovering in the air, and I could feel the weight of it even though I was not touching it. It was heavy, not with pages, with truth, The cover was blank except for one thing. My name, engraved in gold, burning like a brand. Emily Rose Carter. The book opened on its own. Slowly, pages turning without hands to turn them. And I saw, vows. My wedding vows, written in beautiful script, the words I had spoken 6 years ago in front of family and friends and God. I, Emily, take you, David, to be my lawfully wedded husband. To have and to hold from this day forward. For better, for worse. For richer, for poorer. In sickness and in health. To love and to cherish until death do us part. I remembered saying those words. I remembered meaning them. But beneath each vow, there was a list. A list of violations, written in my own handwriting. To love, and beneath it, dozens of moments where I chose cruelty instead. To cherish, and beneath it, every time I tore him down, dismissed him, humiliated him. To honor, and beneath it, every time I mocked him, belittled him, made him feel worthless. The ink looked dark, almost black, but as I stared at it, I realized it was not ink. It was blood. My hands flew to my mouth. I choked on a sob. No, no, this cannot be real. But it was real. It was all real. Every word, every violation, every broken promise. The pages kept turning, faster now, and at the top of each page, burned into the paper in letters that glowed red, were 2 words. Covenant violation. Over and over, page after page, year after year. I wanted to look away but I could not. I wanted to deny it but the evidence was right there. Undeniable, inescapable. I had made promises before God. Sacred promises. And I had broken every single one. The fire beneath the glass flared brighter. Hotter. I could feel the heat now. Not burning my skin but burning something deeper. My conscience. My soul. I understood where I was. This was not a dream. This was not a mistake. This was not some cosmic error. This was judgment. I was being held accountable. For my words. For my cruelty. For my destruction of the covenant I had made. And I had no defense. The book stopped on a page near the end. The text was smaller here. Dense. A record of consequences. Not just what I said, but what my words caused. Depression. Isolation. Hopelessness. And at the bottom of the page, in letters that burned brighter than all the rest. Death. My breath stopped. No, no, please. The fire beneath the glass roared. And then I heard it. A voice. Not from the scrolls. Not from the book. Not from anywhere I could point to. It came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Calm. Clear. But so heavy it made my bones ache. And it said my name. Emily. The weight of that single word crushed my chest. I collapsed fully onto the glass, gasping, trembling, and I knew. I knew without seeing, that I was in the presence of something holy. Something I could not lie to. Something I could not escape. I could not look up. I could not move. The weight of that voice, it was not anger. It was not rage. It was something worse. It was truth. Pure, undiluted, inescapable. And truth, I realized, is the heaviest thing in the universe. Do you know why you are here? The question was not cruel. It was not mocking. It was simply asking. Like a teacher asking a student who already knows the answer but needs to say it out loud. I tried to speak but my throat was too tight. I tried to form words but all that came out was a broken sob. The voice answered for me. You are here because words are not temporary. They are seeds. And you planted death. The scrolls began to move again. But this time, they did not replay my words. They showed me David. The scene shifted, and suddenly I was no longer kneeling on glass. I was standing in our bedroom. But I was not in my body. I was watching, like a ghost, like a witness forced to see something I had missed. David was sitting on the edge of our bed. Alone, his shoulders slumped, his head in his hands. It was the night after our last fight. September 11th, the night he died. I wanted to look away but I could not. I was frozen, forced to watch. He was crying, quiet, the kind of crying men do when they have learned that no one is listening. His hands shook as he wiped his face, and then he reached for something on the nightstand. His journal. He opened it, picked up a pen, and started writing. I floated closer, and I could see the words forming on the page. I do not know how much longer I can do this. My heart broke. He kept writing. I keep telling myself it will get better. That she will see me. That she will love me again the way she used to. But it has been so long, and I am so tired. I wanted to scream. I wanted to reach out and touch him. I wanted to tell him I was sorry. That I did see him. That I did love him. But I could not. I was not really there. I was just watching. He paused, stared at the page, then kept writing. She said I was weak. She said I would never be enough. She said maybe I should just stop trying. I did not remember saying that. But I must have, because there it was, in his handwriting, in his memory. He closed his eyes, and I heard it. His thoughts, not out loud, but somehow, I could hear them, like I was inside his mind. And what I heard destroyed me. My voice, my words, playing on a loop in his head. Maybe you are just weak. You will never be enough. I regret marrying you. You are a burden. Over and over and over. Louder than his own thoughts. Louder than anything else. My voice was the loudest thing in his mind, and it was telling him he was worthless. He tried to fight it. I watched him try. He whispered to himself, "That is not true. I am not weak. I am not worthless." But my voice came back. Stronger. If the shoe fits. And I watched him break. I watched the exact moment he gave up. The exact moment he decided he could not fight anymore. The exact moment he chose to believe my words over his own worth. He set the journal down. Stood up. Walked to the closet. "No, no, David, please." But he could not hear me. This was not happening now. This was the past. This already happened. And I was being forced to witness it. I watched him pull something from the top shelf. I watched him sit back down on the bed. I watched him stare at it for a long time, tears streaming down his face. And then I heard him whisper, "Maybe I am just weak." My words, in his mouth, in his last moments. "Please, no, David, please do not do this." But he did. I watched him make the choice. I watched him carry it out. I watched the moment the light left his eyes. And I felt it, not my pain, his, the relief, the terrible, heartbreaking relief of finally being free from the voice in his head. From my voice, I collapsed, screaming, sobbing, beating my fists against the glass floor. I killed him, oh God, I killed him. The scene faded, the bedroom disappeared, I was back in the court, back on my knees, back in the unbearable light. And the voice spoke again. You called them just words, but he heard them as his death sentence. I could not breathe, I could not think, I could only kneel there, drowning in the weight of what I had done. I did not mean to. I did not know, I was just being honest. The voice did not waver. You were being cruel. And you called it honesty to avoid accountability. The covenant book flipped open again. To a new page, a page I had not seen before. At the top, in burning letters, consequences. And beneath it, a timeline. My words right pointing arrow his depression. My words right pointing arrow his isolation. My words right pointing arrow his hopelessness. My words right pointing arrow his death. The connection was drawn in lines of fire. Undeniable, clear, absolute. I was not innocent. I had not pulled a trigger. I had not tied a rope. But I had spoken the words that made him believe he should. I was a murderer. The voice spoke again. And this time, there were 3 statements. 3 truths I could not escape. You thought you were being honest, but I saw you committing murder with your mouth. I wept, openly, uncontrollably. His blood cries out from the ground, and your voice is woven into his last breath. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to sink into the fire beneath the glass and burn until there was nothing left of me. But the voice was not finished. If you return, what will you do with this knowledge? I looked up for the first time. Not at a person. There was no person. Just light, just presence, just holiness so overwhelming I could barely exist in it. I do not know. My voice was broken. Barely a whisper. I do not know if I deserve to return. Silence. And then the voice spoke one final time. Deserving and mercy are not the same. You will return. And you will testify. I did not understand. I opened my mouth to ask what that meant, but before I could speak, the cord began to fade. The scrolls dissolved into light. The book closed with a sound like thunder. The fire beneath the glass roared upward, surrounding me, not burning but pulling. I felt a violent tug in my chest. Sharp, painful, like a hook lodged in my ribs yanking me backward through space and time. Wait, I do not understand. But there was no answer. Just the pull. Stronger. Faster. The light collapsed into a single point. The silence shattered into sound. And then my chest exploded with pain so violent I thought I was being torn in half. I gasped. And I was back. My chest exploded. That is the only way I can describe it. Like my ribs were being ripped apart from the inside. Like my heart was being shocked back into existence against its will. I gasped. A violent, desperate gulp of air that burned my throat like I was swallowing fire. Voices. Loud. Urgent. Overlapping. We have a pulse. She is back. BP is climbing. Heart rate stabilizing. Hands on my chest. Pressure. Pain. Bright lights above me. So bright they stabbed my eyes even through closed lids. I tried to open them but everything was blurred. Shapes moving. White coats. Machines beeping. I was alive. But I did not feel alive. I felt torn. Like part of me was still standing on that glass floor with fire beneath, and part of me was being dragged back into a body that no longer felt like mine. I tried to speak but nothing came out. Just a choked sound. A sob trapped in my throat. Emily, can you hear me? A woman's face appeared above mine. Kind eyes. A nurse. She was smiling but her smile was tight. Professional. The smile people use when they are relieved you are not dead but unsure if you are okay. I nodded. Barely. You are in the hospital. You had a cardiac arrest. You have been unconscious for a while, but you are stable now. Can you tell me your name? My name. Emily Rose Carter. The name engraved on the covenant book in letters that burned. I opened my mouth and forced the words out. My voice was raspy. Broken. Emily Carter. Good. That is good. You are doing great. But I was not doing great. I was trembling. My entire body shaking like I was freezing even though the room was warm. My hands would not stop shaking. I stared at them, watching them tremble, and all I could see was David's hands. Shaking. Writing in his journal. Writing his last words. Emily, you need to stay calm. Your heart is still recovering. Just breathe. In and out. Slow. I tried to breathe slow. But every breath felt like I was pulling air through a straw. Tight. Suffocating. How long? I managed to whisper. How long were you out? I nodded. 11 minutes. Your heart stopped for 11 minutes. We almost lost you. 11 minutes. 11 minutes in eternity. 11 minutes standing in judgment. 11 minutes watching my husband die because of my words. I closed my eyes and I could still see it. The scrolls. The fire. David sitting on the bed. His voice whispering my cruelty back to himself. Maybe I am just weak. I started crying. Not soft tears. Violent sobs that shook my chest and made the machines around me beep faster. Emily, you need to calm down. Your heart cannot handle this right now. But I could not stop. I could not breathe. I could not do anything but cry because the weight of what I knew was crushing me and I had no way to release it. They gave me something. A sedative. I felt it move through my veins, warm and heavy, pulling me under. And I was grateful, because I did not want to be awake. I did not want to think. I did not want to remember. But even in the sedation, I saw him. David. Always David. When I woke again, it was quieter. The machines still beeped but softer now. The lights were dimmed. I was alone in the room except for a nurse sitting in the corner, reading something on her phone. I turned my head slowly and saw a plastic bag on the chair beside my bed. My belongings. And inside the bag, the journal. David's journal. Brown leather. Worn edges. Still there. Still real. My stomach twisted. It was not a dream. None of it was a dream. David really was dead. I really had found his note. I really had died reading his final words. And I really had stood in that court and seen what my words had done to him. I stared at the journal through the clear plastic, and I felt something break inside me all over again. He was gone, and I had killed him. Not with my hands, but with my mouth, with every cutting word, with every dismissive comment, with every moment I chose cruelty over kindness. I turned my face into the pillow and cried silently so the nurse would not notice. They kept me in the hospital for 2 days. Tests, observations, medications. Doctors came in and out, asking questions, checking monitors, telling me I was lucky to be alive. Lucky. I did not feel lucky. I felt cursed. Cursed to live with the knowledge of what I had done. Cursed to carry the weight of David's death. Cursed to remember the court and the scrolls and the voice that told me I had murdered him with my words. A cardiologist told me the arrest was caused by extreme stress and an undiagnosed heart condition. He said I needed to avoid high-stress situations. He said I needed therapy for trauma and grief. I nodded at everything he said. But I was not really listening. I was just waiting for them to let me leave. My sister came to pick me up. Her name is Rachel. She hugged me in the hospital lobby, and I stood there stiff and unresponsive because I did not know how to receive comfort anymore. I did not deserve it. The drive home was silent. She tried to talk to me a few times, asking if I needed anything, if I wanted to stay with her for a while. I shook my head. I just wanted to go home. But when we pulled into the driveway and I saw the house, I almost told her to keep driving. The house where David died. The house where I died. Rachel walked me to the door, unlocked it, stepped inside first like she was checking for danger. But the danger was not inside the house. The danger was me. It had always been me. "Do you want me to stay?" she asked. I shook my head. "Are you sure? Emily, you should not be alone right now. I need to be alone." My voice was flat, empty. She looked at me with worry in her eyes, but eventually she nodded. "Okay, but call me if you need anything. Anything at all." I promised I would. I would not. She hugged me again and left. And then I was alone. I stood in the entryway for a long time, staring at nothing. The house was too quiet. Too still, like it was holding its breath. I walked down the hallway. Past the kitchen where we used to argue. Past the living room where he told me he was depressed and I laughed. Past the bathroom where I collapsed. To the bedroom. I stopped in the doorway. The bed was made. Clean sheets. Someone had cleaned. Maybe Rachel. Maybe the police. I did not know. But I could still see him. Sitting on the edge of the bed. Journal in his lap. Tears on his face. I walked to the bed and sat in the exact spot where he had sat. I put my hands where his hands had been. And I whispered, "I am sorry." My voice cracked. Tears fell. "David, I am so sorry." But sorry was not enough. Sorry would never be enough. Sorry could not bring him back. Sorry could not undo the years of cruelty. Sorry could not erase the scrolls. I curled up on the bed and cried until I had nothing left. And then I was silent. For 3 days, I did not speak. Not because I was choosing silence. But because every word felt dangerous now. Every sentence felt like a potential weapon. I was terrified of what my mouth might destroy if I opened it. I sat in the house. I stared at walls. I replayed everything in my mind over and over. The court, the scrolls, David's voice, the moment he gave up. I could not escape it. It was burned into my memory like a scar I would carry forever. On the 4th day, I finally spoke. I was sitting on the bedroom floor, back against the wall, and I looked at the spot where David had died. And I said it out loud. "I killed you." 3 words. Simple. True. I killed you, David. With my words. With my cruelty. I killed you. Saying it out loud made it real in a way it had not been before. Admitting it. Owning it. I was a murderer. Not legally, but spiritually, eternally. I had taken a man who loved me and I had torn him apart piece by piece with my mouth until there was nothing left of him but despair. And he had chosen death because living with my voice in his head was worse. I pulled my knees to my chest and sobbed. "I am so sorry. I am so sorry." I said it over and over until the words lost meaning. Until they were just sounds. Until my throat was raw and my chest ached. But I needed to say it. Even if he could not hear. Even if it changed nothing. I needed to say it. The silence was so loud it felt like drowning. On the 7th day after I came back, I called a therapist. I did not want to. I did not think I deserved help. But I remembered the voice in the court telling me I would return to testify, and I knew I could not do that if I stayed broken. Her name was Dr. Sarah Lynn. She specialized in grief and trauma. I found her through an online search, and when I called, I almost hung up 3 times before she answered. "Hello, this is Dr. Lynn. Hi, I need help." My voice was shaking. I sounded pathetic, but she did not seem bothered. "Of course. Can you tell me a little about what is going on?" I did not know where to start. "How do you explain that you killed your husband with words?" How do you explain that you died and stood in judgment and came back with knowledge you cannot escape? My husband, he died. By suicide. 3 weeks ago. And I think it was my fault. There was a pause. Not uncomfortable, just thoughtful. I am so sorry for your loss. That must be incredibly painful. Can we schedule a time to talk more? I agreed. We set an appointment for 2 days later. When I showed up to her office, I almost turned around and left. But I forced myself to walk through the door. To sit in the chair across from her. To try. Dr. Lynn was in her 40s. Calm. Gentle. She did not push. She just asked questions and listened. I told her about David. About our marriage. About the arguments. About the things I said to him. I did not tell her about the NDE. Not yet. I was not ready. I did not think she would believe me. But I told her about the guilt. About the weight. About the belief that I had destroyed him. She listened without judgment. And then she said something that startled me. Emily, what you are describing sounds like verbal abuse. Do you recognize that? I froze. I was just being honest. I was just telling him the truth. Honesty without kindness is cruelty. And cruelty in a marriage is abuse. Even if it does not leave physical bruises. I felt defensive, angry, but also, I knew she was right. I did not mean to hurt him. Intent does not erase impact. You may not have intended to destroy him, but your words did. And owning that is the first step toward healing. Owning it. I thought I had been owning it. But I had not. Not really. I had been wallowing in guilt without actually confronting the patterns that led me there. Over the next few months, Dr. Lynn helped me unpack my childhood. The way I grew up. The way my parents fought. The way my mother used words as weapons and my father withdrew into silence. I learned that I had inherited a pattern. A generational curse of cruelty disguised as communication. I learned that I had been so afraid of being hurt, of being abandoned, that I became the one who hurt first. The one who controlled. The one who destroyed. I had mistaken dominance for strength. I had mistaken cruelty for honesty. I had mistaken control for love. And David had paid the price. I started writing letters to him. Pages and pages. Confessions. Apologies. Ownership. David, I saw what I did to you. I felt what you felt. I stood in a place where truth cannot be hidden, and I was forced to watch you die because of my words. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I kept the letters in a box under the bed. He would never read them. But I needed to write them. I needed to say the things I never said when he was alive. 6 months after I came back, I finally told Dr. Lynn about the NDE. I was terrified she would think I was crazy. That she would dismiss it. That she would try to explain it away as a hallucination caused by oxygen deprivation. But she did not. She listened. She asked questions. And then she said something I did not expect. Whether it was a literal experience or a manifestation of your subconscious guilt does not matter. What matters is that it changed you. And it gave you a message. You said you were told to testify. Have you thought about what that means? I had. I thought about it constantly. I think I am supposed to tell people. To warn them. About words. About covenant. About what happens when you destroy the person you promised to love. Do you want to do that? I did not know. I was terrified. Who would listen to me? Who would believe me? I was a woman who killed her husband with her mouth. Why would anyone want to hear from me? But then I remembered the court. The scrolls. The voice. You will return. And you will testify. I do not know if I want to, I said quietly. But I think I have to. Dr. Lynn nodded. Then let's work on how. It started small. A grief support group at a local church. I went reluctantly, hands shaking, stomach twisting. I sat in the circle of chairs and listened to other people share their stories. Widows, widowers, parents who had lost children, people who understood loss. And then it was my turn. I almost passed, almost said I was not ready. But something inside me pushed the words out. My name is Emily. My husband died by suicide 7 months ago. And I believe my words contributed to his death. The room went silent. I could feel people staring at me. Judging. Horrified. But I kept going. I was verbally abusive. I did not see it that way at the time. I thought I was just being honest. I thought I was just venting. But I was tearing him down. Every day. With sarcasm. With mockery. With dismissiveness. with cruelty disguised as communication. And when he told me he was struggling with depression, I laughed at him. I told him he was weak. And 3 days later, he was gone. My voice broke, tears fell, but I did not stop. I died too, for 11 minutes, and I saw what my words did to him. I felt what he felt. And I know now that words are not temporary. They are not harmless. They are weapons. And I used mine to kill the person I promised to love. I looked around the room. Some people looked uncomfortable. Some looked away. But a few were crying. After the meeting, a woman approached me. She was older, maybe in her 50s. Her eyes were red. "Thank you for sharing that," she said quietly. I have been doing the same thing to my husband for years, and I did not realize it until I heard you speak. I thought I was just keeping him accountable. But I have been tearing him down. And he is starting to pull away from me. And I am scared I am going to lose him. I felt something shift in my chest. Not relief, but purpose. "You can stop," I told her. "It is not too late for you. It was too late for me. But you still have time." She hugged me, hard, and whispered, "Thank you." That was the first person I helped. But she was not the last. I started speaking more. At churches. At marriage conferences. At women's groups. I told my story over and over. And every time, people came up to me afterward. Some were angry. They told me I was making excuses. That I was trying to play the victim. That I was blaming myself for something that was not my fault. But others saw themselves in my words. A man in his 30s who admitted he mocked his wife constantly and called it banter. A woman in her 40s who said she used the silent treatment as punishment and did not realize it was abuse. A young couple who were engaged and starting to recognize toxic patterns before they even got married. I started a blog. I wrote about verbal abuse. About covenant. About the power of words. About the court I stood in and the scrolls that recorded everything. Some people thought I was crazy. Some thought I was lying. But others believed me. And they started changing. I received messages, emails, comments. "I heard your story and I realized I have been destroying my husband. I apologized to him last night and we both cried. Thank you. I was about to leave my wife because I could not take her words anymore. But after hearing your testimony, I realized she might not know what she is doing. I am going to ask her to go to therapy with me. My mom was verbally abusive my whole life and I swore I would never be like her. But I have been doing the exact same thing to my kids. I am getting help. Thank you for your courage." Every message was a reminder. A reminder that my pain had purpose. That David's death was not meaningless. That the court I stood in was not just for my judgment but for my mission. I did not remarry. I did not date. I was not ready. Maybe I never would be. But I was different. I spoke carefully now. I listened deeply. I apologized quickly. I treated every word like it mattered. Because it did. Because I had seen the scrolls. Because I had felt the weight. Because I had stood in the presence of holiness and been told that words are not temporary. They are eternal. 1 year after I came back, I spoke at a large church in Dallas. Hundreds of people. I told my story from beginning to end. I told them about David. About the cruelty. About his death. About my death. About the court. And I told them the truth I had learned. Your words are being recorded. Every single one. Not by the government. Not by social media. By God. And one day, you will stand before the weight of every sentence you spoke in anger, in mockery, in cruelty. You will feel what the other person felt. You will see the damage you caused. And you will be held accountable. The room was silent. If you are using your words to tear down your spouse, your children, your friends, stop. Stop now. Because you may be killing someone slowly and not even know it. I did not know. I thought I was just being honest. I thought I was just keeping it real. But I was committing murder with my mouth. And my husband is dead because of it. I paused, took a breath. I cannot bring him back. I cannot undo what I did. But I can warn you. I can tell you what I saw. I can beg you to change before it is too late. After I finished, people stood. Not to leave, but to applaud. Not because my story was inspiring, but because it was true. And truth, even painful truth, has power. Dozens of people came forward for prayer, for counseling, for help, and I stood there, tears streaming down my face, knowing that this was why I came back. Not to be redeemed, not to be forgiven, but to testify, to warn others, to stop even one person from making my mistake. I still think about David every day. I still see his face. I still hear his voice. Maybe I am just weak, and I still carry the weight of knowing that my words helped end his life. But I also carry something else now. A message, a mission, a responsibility, to tell the truth about words, about covenant, about judgment, because I stood in that court. I saw the scrolls, I felt the fire, and I know what is waiting for all of us. One day, we will all stand before the weight of every word we spoke. And we will be held accountable, not just for what we intended, but for what we destroyed. If you are listening to this right now and you recognize yourself in my story, please stop, get help, go to therapy, apologize, change. Do not wait until it is too late. Do not wait until you are standing on glass with fire beneath, watching the scrolls replay every cruel thing you ever said. Do not wait until the person you love is gone and you are left with nothing but guilt and regret and the knowledge that your words killed them. Change now, while you still can, because words are not temporary. They are seeds, and you are planting either life or death. Choose wisely. Thank you for listening to my testimony. If this story impacted you, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. There is another testimony on your screen. Watch it, learn from it, because eternity is real, judgment is real, and your words are being recorded. Every single one.